Test 1, 2. Test. Come on in as much as you can. Either sit down on a chair or try to squish in, because this is the most volume I've got out of the speaker. We've got the Channel 12 guys from Mankato over here too, so we're going to be hitting the 5 o'clock news in Mankato. 6 o'clock.
Rodney.
Who we got?
Rodney.
Okay, we've got, who else are we missing? We got Mark, we got Rodney, we got Chuck.
Rich.
Management, you're up here. All right.
That's going to be that.
I get the gold one. I get the tall one. Well, thanks for everybody coming to the groundbreaking for the new Absolute Air plant in beautiful Faribault. We've got a real quick agenda, a few things we want to talk about. I'm going to introduce some of the owners. We'll talk about some of the engineering, banking people we got involved in this project. And then we've got the mayor, Kevin Voracek from Faribault, is going to have a few comments, and then we'll have some refreshment after that. So this is an interesting project. A lot of people, most of you guys are in the gas industry, but there are some people here that are not in the gas industry, and they wonder, why would you, first of all, what is an air separation plant, and why would you build one in Faribault, Minnesota? Well, air separation is very key to our business. We're in the welding and gases, bulk gases business, and we sell liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, liquid argon. Those are 3 key products. And the way we do that is we take a building like you see here and a distillation column in the background, you can see it. We take air that we're breathing, okay? The air that you breathe today is roughly 80% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, it's got a little bit of argon. We take that air, we compress it, we liquefy it, and then we separate it into those components in a distillation process. It's a very high-tech process, and I'll be introducing the engineering firm that's designing that for us. This process is typically done by large multi-billion dollar companies in the world. Companies like you've heard of, like Praxair, Air Liquide, Airgas, Messer Lindy, those kind of companies. Very seldom will an independent company build an air separation plant. It's capital intensive. I've built 2 of them as a company I was running, and now we've got the Absolute Air Group, which is 5 companies that have pulled their money together to run an independently operated air separation facility. It's key in the location, Faribault, close to the interstate, available land, and so we purchased 10 acres here. It's kind of in the heart and the center of the 5 companies that are invested in this project. So those 5 companies, you'll hear a little bit about their employees and owners in a minute, but they're shown on the banner here. We've got Minneapolis Oxygen, we've got AOX, we've got Mississippi Welders, and we've got Toll, and we've got Huber out of Mesa City. Huber, by the way, has a small branch in Owatonna as well. So these companies all run branch operations, have a lot of employees here. Great you could all show up for this because it's pretty exciting. So I want to talk a little bit about the partners. I just mentioned them, but Brad will introduce the teams in a minute. But I want to talk about who we're using on the engineering side. We've got over here Ishmael Shalabi and his partner Matsubayashi-san from Japan came in for this. Matsubayashi-san is the CEO of a company called Air Water AMCS, which is a joint venture. Ishmael is the president of that company, and they're the 2 technical gurus. If you really want to get into the stones about how this plant runs, you can talk to those guys. So they're designing that. We also hired on ISG Engineering. I saw Andy Brandel. I thought Andy and Ryan are here. And by the way, forgive me if I miss names, because I'm not reading this off. I'm just kind of doing this from memory. But they've done all the civil work and the building work, design work. Once that was down the road, we hired Bauer Design. You see their trailer here. We got Branton. and we've got Alan, and I think Dave is here as well. So, you know, those guys are going to be the boots on the ground. They're going to be digging in the dirt as of yesterday on this project. So they're going to be awesome. They will see the project through, building, concrete, asphalt, all of that equipment. So appreciate their help on that. And then who do we have last? Oh, the bank. Yeah, we got to have money to do this, right?
Put them on the spot.
So Greg with Bremer Bank is here, and you know, Bremer's our partner on this. They're helping putting together both the bank financing and some SBA financing for the project, and so appreciate all the work and the tough work it takes to get this done. I didn't mention any attorneys. Do we have any attorneys here? There are a lot of those involved in this too, believe me. We can tell attorney jokes all day long. With that, Brad's the chairman of our Absolute Air LLC, and I'll let him introduce the owners and their employees. Thanks, Ned. Let's give Ned a hand. Ned is our president, and he was a key person. I knew he was going to be retiring from Norco, and I called him up about 6 months ahead of time, and I said, what are you doing the day after you retire from Norco? And here he is. So that's our president. He's running everything, doing a great job for us. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here on such a great day. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here, and thanks also to Mara Garvey, who's traveled from Massachusetts to cover this event for an industry magazine. And also, I'd like to thank all of our industry peers and friends, especially Ray Dillard, traveled from Virginia, right there, and Ray Borzio from Florida. I saw Ray somewhere. Okay. All right, now I'd like to do a little more introduction on the ownership group of this project. First off, I just want to say that all 5 companies have been in existence for over 70 years. We're all family owned except Tola's and ESOP. And then we also have the IWDC, which is represented by Rich Mansman here. The IWDC is the Independent Welding Distributors Cooperative. It's about 140 member companies like ours that have banded together, and the headquarters is down in Indianapolis. Rich has been a key player. We first tried to do this about 10 or 15 years ago, some of us up here, and we just didn't know each other well enough. We didn't have the strong enough connection. It just didn't work out 10 or 15 years ago. A couple of years ago, Rich and I started kicking around this idea again, and then we brought in Tom and Chuck, and we got the band back together, so to speak. We got the ball rolling. IWDC was very instrumental. Rich and the team down in Indianapolis got some of the legwork going on the legal concerns. So thank you for being here, Rich. Appreciate that. And then we have AOX out of Sioux Falls, represented by Tom Elliott and his crew. If you're from AOX, raise your hand. Let's see who else here from AOX. We got a pretty good contingent. Okay. Shout out to Sioux Falls. And then from Mason City, we've got Rodney Huber and the Huber family. And let's have all our Huber representatives raise your hand. I see a bunch of you guys back there. We got a pretty good representation. Thanks, everybody. And then from Minneapolis Oxygen, we got Mark Faulkner and his son Kevin and their crew. Raise your hands, guys, if you're here. Thanks for being here. And that's their tanker sitting over there, right there. That's a liquid nitrogen tanker, hauls probably 7,000 gallons of liquid nitrogen. About 44,000 pounds of product is the payload. We'll be making about 15 loads of that a day in our plant when we're at full production. And the raw material is air. And then from Toll Company, we've got Chuck Allard and his crew. Toll people, raise your hand. We got quite a delegation from Toll. Nice job, guys. And lastly, my company, Mississippi Welders Supply. I've got my mother, my father, my brother, my sister here, and my wife. And raise your hand from Mississippi. All right, thanks guys for being here. We've got quite a crew spread out. So if you get a chance, please, after all the ceremonies and stuff, please mingle and talk with each other. As I mentioned, we got the band back together a couple of years ago, and aside from Ned, we had another key person involved.
and that was Bruce Best back there. Bruce is Aspen Run Consulting, and Bruce put together the financial model for this. And then the other key thing, Bruce's contribution was the name, Absolute Air. Thanks, Bruce. Give him a big hand. We went around and around on that name, and then one day it just kind of popped out of Bruce's mouth, and we all said, yeah, that's it, Absolute Air. A couple other shout-outs I need to do here. One of the key components of this plant is the big tower, and in those towers are the distillation process and the heat exchange and that sort of thing. And Chart Industries is represented by Bruce over here out of La Crosse. Thanks for being here. And another key part of this plant, Ned mentioned we like Faribault because of the interstate and because it's kind of central to all of us, but it's also very important to have good electrical power and get a good rate and a good provider that's got good reliability. We're working with Steel Waseca and Great River Energy. I think some of those gentlemen are here. I see one back there. Thank you guys for being a part of this. And Ned mentioned the bankers, and we really appreciate Bremer's work on this. In addition to Greg, we've got Mark and Nate here from Bremer. And they also worked in coordination with the SBA, the Small Business Administration, which has a contractor that runs it called Spedco. Spedco couldn't be here today, but they're a key part of the project also. There's so many people to thank. Sorry if I miss everybody. The city of Faribault has been great to work with. I think I saw Tim, the administrator, I saw Deanna, and I saw David. Raise your hand if you're from the city of Faribault, please. Thank you guys so much for helping out. So, okay, a couple of just philosophical comments here, I think. For all our years of collective experience, we've all been in business over 70 years. We've always bought our gases from a large, major supplier. And now we're going to be making the bulk of those gases for ourselves. And I think that's a big deal. The eyes of the industry are really on us on this one. It's kind of a disruption to the normal course of business. This plant will allow us to become more independent, producing our own gases, as I mentioned. We'll still need to purchase other gases from those large suppliers. And one of these plants doesn't exist in a vacuum. It needs to be a network. When a plant is down for maintenance or a casualty or something like that, you back each other up, you help each other, so it's a network. So we'll still have a relationship with those big guys. We'll still need to buy helium from them, and we can't make enough argon. Nobody can make enough argon unless you're hooked up to a big steel plant or some other very, very large user. So we'll have swap deals, we'll have backup deals. But as I said, we'll be buying other specialty gases from those large suppliers still. This plant will be an economic driver for the region. Many larger businesses seek out a plant like this because they want to co-locate, because it's so critical to their process to have liquid nitrogen or liquid oxygen. So just a few examples that popped to mind as I was jotting my notes. Food processors, electronics manufacturers, float glass manufacturers. Those are just a few examples of who might want to co-locate near us. And we certainly hope and expect that those opportunities will be manifested here. As I said, the eyes of the industry are on us. I'm going to wait for this guy to go by because I think this is important.
You got the mayor here. Maybe you stop traffic.
Yeah. Get out there, Mayor. We're really under a microscope. The big guys are watching to see if we stumble, and the little guys are watching to see if this is a replicable model that they can go out and reproduce. We're under that microscope, but I think we're up to the challenge. We're ready. We all really look forward to this plant being built, being online, being a full part of the community of Faribault. And on a personal note, I really look forward to loading the first tanker myself and driving it out of the plant to a customer location. Thanks.
Thanks, Brad. So those are great comments, and there is a lot of people with their eyes on us right now. So the ball's in your court, Bauer. You got to start building quick. Start dumping gravel. So I want to introduce Kevin. Is it Voracek? Did I get that right? The mayor of Faribault. He'd like to have a few comments.
It's quite the windscreen. You must not expect good weather. Well, thank you guys for coming. This is a large undertaking, and as you can see, Faribault is open for business. So if you're one of those accessory businesses and you want to come to town, I got property right there. I got a cornfield right there. We've got all over this city. We can squeeze you in. Even if Bremer Bank says, you know what, they paid a lot of interest, we should open a bank closer to them. Come on up. So from a city angle, a project like this is actually quite a bit of a challenge because it just doesn't fit our mold of putting up a building. You know, when you build a small building like next to us, that's pretty simple. There's categories that it fits in. But Dave Wanberg with the city over here has done a lot of work to try and get this project to fit. We had to do some creative zoning issues because of the height of the tower and the airport proximity. So we had to work through that, and he's getting really good at projects that just don't fit a mold. So we just want to thank Dave Wanberg and acknowledge him for all the work that he's done. So once again, this is a great project. We're happy to have you here. We'll keep working with you. The city administrator says that there's more work to be done. Deanna Kennan will be more than happy to help these accessory businesses open. And as a council, we just want to be here and be supportive for you. And thank you for coming to Faribault. And we're always open for business.
Okay, we're pretty much on time. I think we're gonna throw some dirt. So do we have camera and crew ready to go?
Who are you throwing it at?
Throw it anybody you want.
Yeah. Cover me up.
There's that guy in Green Bay.
Forward on a count of three. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3, throw! One, two, three, go! All right.
So that concludes all of the ceremony. Join us for refreshment. We've got some drinks, we've got some goodies. And by the way, thanks to Linda and the AOX crew for driving down from Sioux Falls this morning. Did you drive down this morning? Okay, and brought all this stuff. So I appreciate you doing that. Thanks.